My name is Isabella, and for my second sports medicine project, I did strength and conditioning for pelvic instability. I chose my client, who was a competitive snowboarder for 6 years and was diagnosed with hip dysplasia when she was 12. She had her first surgery in April of 2022 and is now planning on having another one this year. What is hip dysplasia? It is a condition where the hip does not fit into the hip socket properly. Hip dysplasia can also cause pain, especially after activity and long periods of sitting. Pain can also become sharp during specific movements or weight-bearing activities. Chronic pain over time, as a joint may develop arthritis or other complications due to instability. This is why I chose to do my project on pelvic instability. What is strength and conditioning? It focuses on improving athletic performance through specific training techniques. My agenda for this project was to start with a baseline. My second step was to find exercises to improve my baseline. My third step was to meet with my client midweek to see how the program was going. For my last step was to redo my baseline testing. Throughout the 2 weeks, I had her perform exercises to warm up her hips for the exercises she would complete. For the first week, she was unable to hit all exercises to the full of her ability. For the second week, she was able to hit every exercise to the full of her ability. Some of the target areas we were working for were glute muscles, hip flexors, quads, and hamstrings, pelvic floor muscles, hip abductors, and core muscles. For my baseline testing, I decided to do wall sits, hip abduction, clamshells, and glute bridges.
With your feet slightly wider than shoulder width apart. Lean back into a squat against the wall with your knees bent to 90 degrees and hold this position. Make sure your knees are not bent forward past your toes and keep your back flat against the wall during the exercise.
Wall sits, I was working to help her hit
With your
90
feet
degrees,
slightly wider than shoulder
holding
width
as long
apart.
as she could
Lean
without
back into a
losing
squat
form
against the wall
for
with your
30
knees bent to
seconds.
90 degrees.
To lock out your knee and keep your leg nice and straight and keep your toes pointed forward the whole time so it's not going out, but you're almost leading with your heel. To lock out your knee and keep your leg nice
For
and
hip
straight
abduction,
and keep your
I had her
toes
stand
pointed
and lift
forward
her
the whole
legs
time so
straight,
it's not
seeing how
going
far she
out,
could get.
but you're
I
almost
had her
leading
do
with your
this for
heel.
3 sets of 5.
Back, shoulders stacked. You want to bend those knees just forward of the hip a little bit with the feet stacked up with the rest of the body. You want to keep the hips stacked and make a little lift and lower of the top knee. Just like that. So make sure as you're lifting that knee up, that hip doesn't move back with it. So that's why I'm putting my hand on the hip. Back, shoulders stacked. You want to bend those knees just forward of the hip a little bit with the feet stacked up with the rest of the body. You want to keep the hips stacked and make a little lift and
down on the ground. And first you're going to make sure that your feet are about shoulder width apart, and then we're going to try to get that pelvic tilt. So what that means is we're going to rotate our hips back so our low back is touching the ground. Once you do that, you can double check that and put your fingertips just inside your hip bones, and you can feel those deep core muscles activating. Once you have the pelvic tilt, then you're going to squeeze your glutes and raise up towards the ceiling. You're going to hold there for a couple seconds, and then you're going to come straight back down on the ground. And first you're going to make sure that your feet are about shoulder width apart, and then we're going to try to get that pelvic tilt. So what that means is we're going to rotate our hips back so our low back is touching the ground. Once you do that, you can double check that and put your fingertips just inside your hip bones, and you can...
For the first wall sit, she was unable to hit 90 degrees. In the middle, she was also unable to hit 90 degrees, and by the end, she was able to hit fully 90 degrees. For clamshells, at first she was unable to open all the way. By the middle, she was able to lift a little higher, and by the end, she was able to lift fully. For hip abduction, she was only able to lift to 30 degrees. By the middle, she was able to lift to 45. By the end, she was able to lift fully to 90. Lastly, for glute bridges, she was able to lift fully on the baseline, but had some pain. By the end, she was able to lift all the way without pain. Some of the exercises that helped improve my baseline were open the gates, close the gates, pigeon stretch, squats, and lunges. As you can see, I was able to help my client improve drastically. In my project, I was able to help my patient improve pelvic instability. Although I couldn't improve as much as I wanted, I was able to see improvement in the middle of my project. My patient was experiencing severe pain due to an injury that resulted in surgery. A couple of days she was unable to do the exercises due to the amount of pain they were causing her. After I was finished with my project, I asked my patient if she would do this workout again, and she said yes. Thank you for watching.